Hi, I'm Rich Wyatt. Welcome to GunsmokeGunsTV.com. Welcome, folks. Today we're here, Bob and I, me and Bob, hanging out with a couple of battle rifles. Now, Bob, what do we got here?
Well, you know, basically you have the M1 Garand, and it is pronounced Garand, not Garand, not other ways. Mr. Garand himself said it's pronounced Garand. He was French-Canadian, wasn't even an American citizen, although he was when this gun was finally developed.
So even though everybody calls it an M1 Garand,
it's not.
It's a Garand.
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 M1 Garand. Mr. Garand was an interesting man, and he was a genius. To make a battle rifle as simple, Patton called it the best battle implement ever designed.
Oh, yeah. And George Patton knew a thing about that, didn't he?
He did,
I mean,
he did.
Here we're talking about a guy that was a warrior.
Yes, in the highest sense of the word, warrior. So Garand actually started working on this gun in the late 1900s, and it developed. He went through a couple different evolutions of this. This is the final design, the M1 U.S. rifle M1, and nicknamed the Garand. A super rifle, was probably our longest serving battle rifle of all of them, counting the 038, the 03 Springfield, counting the Krag. The M1 soldiered on, and actually still soldiers on, with drill teams and training commands like the Navy. I think they still use them at Great Lakes.
The Honor Guard still uses them?
Honor Guard still use them. The Silent Marine Corps drill team uses the M1. And so it's been around for a long time. Interestingly enough, this rifle came that close to not being the U.S. battle rifle.
Really?
This rifle, the 1941 Johnson, was at one point in time in very close competition to the M1.
Now, was the M1 out when the Johnson came out?
Oh, yes. The M1 had already been adopted. They'd already made a couple thousand of them.
Okay.
But in the 1940s, in the early 1940s, there was a groundswell of controversy. Melvin Johnson, the designer of the rifle, was a Marine Corps captain.
Yep.
Super, very genius. He came up with a rifle that has some advantages over the M1. It's a 10-round magazine, self-contained. The difference between the M1 and the Johnson in terms of cartridges, same cartridge, 30-06, M2 ball, in this case, M2 ball. The problem with the M1, it used an N-block 8-round clip. And once you had fired 3 rounds out of that clip, the only way to replenish is to dump that one and start over with a new one. With the Johnson, which used 5-round stripper clips like the 03 Springfield, which everybody was familiar with, you could actually fire 6 rounds, take a 5-round stripper clip, and shove it in and replenish the magazine without having to dump the rest of them.
You could top this gun off.
Exactly.
You can't top this gun off.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Now that's the sound we all know, the ting of an M1 Garand, the clip popping out of the gun, just like you heard in Saving Private Ryan. This is a true battle rifle and a real soldier's friend. Every American should own an M1 Garand. It's a piece of history and a functional battle rifle. This is functional art. Now, didn't the Johnson have some failures, though?
Oh, it did. One of the main failures with the Johnson was bayonet fighting. You'll notice the difference between the structure and the thin barrel. It was not designed. The problem was the barrel's a blowback design.
Yeah.
And putting a real bayonet, this is more of a spike bayonet than a real blade bayonet, putting that on that barrel slowed down the action and caused it to failure, to failure to feed. Yep. So but the other side of the coin is this barrel could be replaced in 20 seconds.
Not so much.
Not so much. This one you need a bench and a vise
And some skills.
and some skills and a big wrench.
And you got to have everything to headspace it.
Right. And this one, you dump the barrel out, put a new one in. That was really more important with the light machine gun, which was basically the same action, but it was still important with the rifle, particularly in an extended battle situation.
So today, this Johnson is worth a lot more than most of your Garands.
You know, they made almost 4 million Garands during Garands. I did it myself. Force of habit. 4 million Garands during World War II, and they made, and actually they made very few from the U.S. for the U.S. government. They made a bunch for the Netherlands, and before the Netherlands fell to Germany in Europe and then the Dutch East Indies in Malaysia to the Japanese, they bought like 6,000, 12,000 guns.
Oh, yeah.
And the U.S. ended up taking those guns over. Many of them were issued to the Marine Corps because the Marine Corps really wanted the Garand, the M1, and the Army is the firearm, the arms procurer for the Marine Corps. The
Right.
Navy does everything else, but the Army's the one who procures
Gets the guns.
And the Army was taking every M1 they could get. There's a joke. It's not really a funny joke, but there's a apocryphal story about on Guadalcanal. There was a Marine Corps gunnery sergeant following close behind this U.S. Army tech sergeant, and an officer says, "Hey, Marine, what are you following?" "I'm waiting until he gets killed. I get his rifle."
Yeah,
Because
right.
they were
desperate to have
stolen out of they were desperate to get them. Exactly. The only real complaint that soldiers had during World War II, one of the complaints was it is sensitive to dirt, dust, and freezing. And of course, they had a great way of getting around the freezing part of it. It happened many times. I understand. I wasn't there in Bastogne and at the Battle of the Bulge. The guys would urinate on the rifle to warm it up, to melt the ice that was blocking it. Okay, it's a complicated battle rifle. It really isn't that. I've owned M1s almost my entire life, it seems like, and I fired lots of different ammo and never had a failure to feed or anything else. But they are supposedly sensitive to dirt and that sort of thing.
I've never had a problem with it. I've gotten them dirty. I've never torture tested one in the mud because I just have too much respect for this gun to go out and do that. Here's the biggest complaint people had about this. This is a heavy gun. This rifle is a man's rifle. I mean, this is a big gun. This weighs more than some of our smaller troops.
Yeah, just about.
Now, the AR-15, which is taken over for this gun, is not a battle rifle by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, they use it in battle a lot.
They use it in battle, but it's not
It's not what you think of or I think of as a battle rifle.
Yeah, and if you ask guys in after-action reports of what the 223 does in comparison to the 30-06, it's devastating.
It is.
The 30-06 is a showstopper. These were made by International Harvester.
Well, Springfield and Winchester made the World War II versions.
Right.
And then after World War II, they decided to decentralize the firearms our government at work again. They decided to decentralize the arms manufacturing because they're all New England. So they decided to let contracts out for other producers for the second generation M1. Okay, bid went to H&R, which is located in New England.
Yeah.
And the other bid went to the pickup truck people or the refrigerator people, International Harvester.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, the International Harvester rifles, and they had trouble getting going because they hadn't really dealt with the government on this kind of critical specifications. They actually made them in the Evansville, Indiana plant. On one half the plant, they were making refrigerators. The other half of the plant, they made M1s, and it was the same plant, which is, it's amazing how incestual these government contractors are. It was the same plant that Republic Aircraft made P-47s in World War II.
Really?
So the P-47 production moved out, refrigerators and M1s moved in.
Now, Bob, this one right here is a Winchester.
Oh, okay.
How did that come about?
Well, Winchester, being a very large arms producer, and at that point in time, Winchester was also making the M1 carbine. They were actually the first ones to make the M1 carbine. It was their design that had been accepted. Put their foot in the door and says, we want to make a trial run or a tooling run of 1,000 rifles or something like that. And so they did that, and it worked out so well. Now, are all the parts interchangeable? They certainly are.
They sure are.
Anything that is on this rifle, you can put on a Springfield, and later on an H&R or a International Harvester.
Isn't that what mil spec means? Everybody talks about I got a mil spec gun. Isn't that what they're talking about?
No, mil spec is a specific term, means it's a specification accepted by the military. Interchangeability, I guess you could call that a mil spec.
That was one of their specifications.
had to
They
be.
had to be able to change parts in the
Right.
field.
You-
Had to be able to take a bolt out of a Springfield and put it in a Winchester, or put it in an H&R, or International
Side
Arms.
parts or any part on this gun which is made in World War II will fit on one of the H&R or the Harvester guns made after the war.
So when did they start making the M1?
Actually, I think the first production was like 1938. They made
Okay.
the first 70, I believe it was. Okay, and that rifle was different. It was what was called a gas trap model, and it was really kind of a cool idea. It trapped the gas. There was a fixture that fit on the muzzle, and the gas was trapped, and this fixture went forced or turned back
Deflected
in,
the gas back
deflected
in.
back into the op rod cylinder,
And-
and that may work. Okay, a couple things. First of all, there was one little screw that held that on. It was not very sturdy for bayonet fighting. Secondly, the screw would loosen up, which would cause accuracy problems. Plus, it was a hard thing to keep clean. So, Mr. Garand went back to his drawing boards and came up with what's called the gas port model, which means there's a hole drilled in the bottom of the barrel right about there, and at that point, gas is removed from the barrel. That operates the piston inside the op rod chamber,
Which runs your op rod right here.
which operates that op rod pistons on the end of this one piece of machinery that goes into the cylinder.
So Bob, we've told everybody about these Grands, and I think they might want to see them shot.
You know, there are two things that really excite me, and the second one is shooting an M1.
I don't even want to know what the first one
Yeah,
is.
I had a
I
hunch.
mean, that's a bad visual right now, Bob.
The la 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 la.
Yep.
Yeah, there's something about an M1 that if you ever fire one, you will immediately want one.
I just don't know how you can't have one. I mean,
What is not to like about this rifle?
oh man.
It's an adequate cartridge. It'll reach way out and send a message. Its ammunition is relatively easy to get, although not nearly as easy as it was 20 years ago.
Sure.
But it's a fun gun to shoot.
Well, I think my first one came in at $179, mailed to my door. So we drop the clip in the gun, give it a little slam home, it's ready to go. The safety's inside the trigger guard. Bob, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's let them rip. Man, is that fun.
It is fun. You realize we just put about $32 worth of ammo out there.
Awesome, guys. Somebody owes us a check. Nah, we had the fun. We'll pay for it.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for watching GunsmokeGunsTV.com. Please tell a friend. We really like to blow this up because as soon as we get enough viewers, that's what's going to happen.